My mother gave my 5-year-old son a cleaning apron for Christmas. Not a toy. Not a book. A full-sized industrial cleaning apron, the kind janitors wear. My daughter got a professional broom set. My nephew Blake? He got a $2,000 drone. Every great house needs good staff, Mom said, not even blinking. Blake's going to run this family one day. Your children need to learn their place early. Blake revved the drone's propellers near my son's head. Yeah. Make sure you get the mud off my boots before you leave. I stood up, took the aprons from my kids' confused hands, dropped them straight into the trash, and walked out without saying a word. Before I tell you what I found on my computer that night and exactly how I made them pay for those aprons, drop a comment and let me know where you're listening from. I want to see how far this story travels. The drive home was silent. Noah and Lily fell asleep in the back seat before we even hit the highway, clutching empty space where real gifts should have been. I didn't turn on the radio. I needed quiet to process the fact that I just orphaned myself. 32 years. 32 years of being the beautiful daughter, the fixer, the safety net. But as the miles blurred past, I realized something. I wasn't grieving the loss of my parents. I was grieving the time I'd wasted trying to buy their love. When we got home, I carried the kids to bed, tucked them in, and went straight to my home office. No tea. No pacing. I sat down and opened my laptop. I'm a lead landscape architect for one of the most aggressive firms in the city. But for the last 3 years, I'd been ghost designing the Sky Garden project for my family's firm. A massive eco-friendly urban park system worth millions. My legacy. Except because my name wasn't Trevor, my father insisted I do the work in the shadows while my brother took the meetings. I logged into the firm's private server. My plan was simple: revoke their access, watermark my designs, leverage them for an apology. But the moment my screen flickered to life, I stopped breathing. The access logs were scrolling in real time. Someone was currently logged in as admin. I stared at the screen. For a second, my resolve wavered. Why was I surprised? Why did part of me still want to call my dad and ask for an explanation? That's the invisible chain of the scapegoat. It's psychological debt you're raised to believe you owe. From the time I was 6, my parents taught me that Trevor was the investment and I was the insurance policy. I wasn't just a sister. I was the organ donor, the bank account, the backup plan. They conditioned me to believe my survival was a privilege they granted me. And the rent was due every single day. 3 years ago, my father called me weeping. Said the company was going under. They'd lose the estate. I drained my entire life savings, $50,000 I'd scraped together working double shifts and freelancing until my eyes burned. I wrote them a check to save the family legacy. 2 weeks later, Trevor pulled up in a brand new $70,000 luxury SUV. When I asked about it, my mother told me to stop being jealous. That appearances mattered for business. I swallowed that rage. Told myself I was helping. But I wasn't helping. I was paying ransom for love that didn't exist. Sitting there in the dark, watching the cursor blink, the chain finally snapped. They'd trained a servant, yes. But they forgot the servant holds the keys to the castle. I looked closer at the file directory. The Sky Garden master folder wasn't just being viewed. It was being moved. I watched the progress bar inch toward 100%. Moving files. Not copying. Moving. I tried to cancel the command, fingers flying across the keyboard to initiate a remote lockdown. But a red box flashed on screen. Administrative access revoked. I stared at those 3 words. They weren't just an error message. They were an eviction notice. I tried the backups. Corrupted. I tried the cloud mirror. Gone. In 30 seconds, 3 years of my life, thousands of hours of rendering, environmental impact studies, structural schematics, had vanished. The Sky Garden project wasn't just a portfolio piece. It was a $3.5 million contract I'd built from the ground up. The future of the firm. And now it was gone. My phone buzzed on the desk. I picked it up. A message from Trevor. No Merry Christmas. No sorry about mom. Just a photo. A selfie. He was sitting in the back of a luxury car, holding a crystal flute of champagne, wearing that smug grin that had gotten him out of every speeding ticket and failed class his entire life. The caption read, "Thanks for the inheritance, little aunt. Don't worry, I'll put my name on the title block so it actually sells. You stick to sweeping." I didn't throw the phone. I didn't cry. A strange cold calm settled over me, like the temperature in the room had dropped 20 degrees. This wasn't just stolen credit. This was a hostile takeover. Trevor knew he couldn't design a doghouse, let alone an urban ecosystem. He needed my work to land the partnership with Pinnacle Real Estate Group this week. But he didn't just want the money. He wanted to erase me. By deleting the backups and locking me out, he ensured I couldn't prove authorship. He was banking on the fact that I was the good sister. The one who would never sue her own family. The one who'd swallow the loss to keep the peace. He thought he was taking credit. He didn't realize he was taking the pin out of a grenade. I looked at the photo again. Little aunt. That's what he used to call me when we were kids, stepping on my sandcastles because he knew Dad would just laugh and say I built them in the wrong spot. He thought I was small, powerless, because I didn't have his title or his inheritance. But Trevor made a critical error. He forgot who actually built the castle. He stole the files, the renders, the blueprints, the client data. But he didn't check the code. He didn't look beneath the surface of the 3D geometry. If he had, he might have seen the digital tripwire I'd buried there years ago, waiting for a day exactly like this. I put the phone down. I didn't need to call a lawyer. I didn't need to beg for my access back. I just needed to be in the room when he tried to sell a product he didn't understand. Panic is for amateurs. For people who trust the world is fair. I stopped believing the world was fair when I was 12 years old and watched my parents buy my brother a pony while I got a second-hand bicycle missing a pedal. I didn't call a lawyer. I didn't call the police. I didn't waste time screaming into a pillow. I sat forward in my chair, the glow of the monitor reflecting in my eyes, and opened a command terminal I'd hidden on my laptop years ago. Trevor thought he was a genius because he knew how to change an admin password. He thought stealing the files was the end of the game. But he made the classic mistake of the parasite. He assumed he understood the host. He saw the Sky Garden project as a collection of pretty pictures and sellable assets. He didn't understand it was a living, breathing system I'd coded from the ground up. And because I knew exactly who my brother was, a thief with a smile, I'd taken precautions. I typed in a string of code, just random characters to the untrained eye. But on screen, a hidden directory popped up. It wasn't on the company server. It was local, buried deep in the metadata of the 3D geometry itself. Architects call it a digital watermark. I call it a dead man's switch. 3 years ago, when I started building the core models for the project, I embedded a script into the foundation of the virtual city. It's invisible. You can render the city 1,000 times, walk through it in VR, print it on blueprints, you'll never see it. It sits dormant, waiting for a specific command to wake up. It was my insurance policy. I knew that one day my family would try to take this from me. I just didn't know when. I checked the status of the script. Active. Waiting. Trevor had the files. The presentation ready for Pinnacle Real Estate Group. I checked the industry news feed on my second monitor. The pitch meeting was scheduled for Tuesday morning at the downtown real estate exchange. That was 48 hours away. He was going to stand on a stage in front of investors worth billions and present my work as his own. He was going to smile that golden boy smile and sell my soul to the highest bidder. I closed the laptop. The cold calm I felt earlier hardened into something sharp. I didn't need to hack into their server to get the files back. I didn't need to stop the meeting. In fact, I needed the meeting to happen. I needed him on that stage. I needed the lights bright and the stakes impossibly high. Because the script I wrote doesn't just delete files. It exposes them. But there was a catch. The trigger wasn't remote. To prevent accidental detonation, I'd hard-coded the execution command to require a local handshake. I had to be on the same Wi-Fi network as the presentation computer. I had to be in the room. Tuesday morning broke with aggressive sunshine that felt like mockery when you know you might be walking into your own execution. I stood outside the real estate exchange, a fortress of glass and steel where the city's skyline was bought and sold. Inside, in less than 30 minutes, Pinnacle Real Estate Group would decide the fate of the Sky Garden project. My project. I adjusted my blazer, gripped my phone, the detonator, and walked toward the security checkpoint. I didn't have a plan B. My entire strategy relied on the arrogance of my brother. I assumed he'd be too busy polishing his ego to remember to revoke my building clearance. I was wrong. I tapped my badge against the scanner. Instead of the familiar green chirp, the machine let out a low, angry buzz. The light flashed red. Access denied. I tried again. Red. Ma'am. A security guard, a man whose neck was wider than my head, stepped in front of the turnstile. Badge is invalid. You need to step back. There's a mistake, I said, voice steady despite the sudden drop in my stomach. I'm the lead architect on the morning pitch. My name is Sasha. He didn't even look at his screen. System says your credentials were scrubbed yesterday. Terminated with cause. You're on the do not admit list. Terminated. Trevor hadn't just stolen the work. He'd anticipated I would try to save it. He'd preemptively fired me from the company I helped build just to keep me out of this room. I stood there, frozen, realizing the fatal flaw in my plan. The dead man's switch required a local handshake. I had to be on the internal Wi-Fi. If I was standing on the sidewalk, I was nothing but a spectator to my own robbery. Then a black SUV pulled up to the curb. The VIP doors opened. My parents stepped out first. Malcolm looked like a statesman in his tailored suit. Margot was glowing in pearls and silk, playing the role of proud matriarch perfectly. And then came Trevor. He stepped onto the pavement, adjusting his cufflinks, looking every inch the visionary genius he pretended to be. They were laughing, celebrating before the ink was even dry. Then they saw me. They didn't look afraid. They didn't look guilty. My mother actually sighed, a look of profound disappointment, as if I were a stain on her perfect morning. My father shook his head, turning his back to usher my mother inside. But Trevor stopped. He looked at me standing behind the security line, blocked by the guard, holding a phone that was now useless. He smiled. Not a nice smile. The smile of the boy who broke my toys and knew he wouldn't get in trouble. He leaned in close to the glass doors, made eye contact with me, and mouthed 2 words. Go home. Then he turned and walked into the lobby. The golden doors slid shut behind him. I was locked out. The pitch was starting in 20 minutes. He was going to sell my life's work for $3.5 million, and I was going to be left on the pavement with nothing. I didn't argue with the guard. I didn't make a scene in the lobby. I simply stepped out of his line of sight, pulled out my phone, and scrolled to a contact I hadn't spoken to in 2 years. Nathan Garrett. Lead developer for the rival firm bidding against my family today. 2 years ago, I tipped him off about a zoning violation on one of his sites. Not to help him. Because it was the right thing to do. He owed me. I sent one text, I'm in the lobby. I can prove the Sky Garden IP is stolen. Get me in. 2 minutes later, the elevator doors opened. Garrett walked out, flanked by his legal team. He didn't ask questions. He didn't ask for proof yet. He just looked at the guard and said, "She's my external consultant. She's with us." The guard stepped aside. Just like that, the fortress walls crumbled. I walked into the boardroom at the back of the pack, slipping into the shadows near the AV console. The room was massive, but all the oxygen was being sucked up by the man on stage. Trevor was in his element. Standing in front of a 20-foot LED wall displaying a rotating 3D model of my city. He looked confident, charismatic, and completely fraudulent. This ecosystem, he was saying, gesturing broadly, was born from a vision I had 3 years ago. It's not just architecture. It's a philosophy I've cultivated. My parents were in the front row, nodding like bobbleheads. They looked so proud. Proud of the lie. Proud of the thief. I pulled out my phone. My thumb hovered over the Wi-Fi settings. The network name popped up. RX conference current. I typed in the guest password Garrett had just whispered to me. Connected. The handshake was complete. The dead man switch buried in the presentation software pinged my phone. It was awake, waiting for authorization. I looked at Trevor one last time. He was laughing at a joke he just made, basking in the admiration of billionaires. He truly believed he'd won. He believed that erasing my name from the file was the same as erasing my existence. I didn't feel guilt. I didn't feel hesitation. I felt like a judge dropping a gavel. I tapped execute. I didn't look at the screen. I looked at Trevor's face. In 1 second, his arrogant grin vanished. His eyes went wide, reflecting a sudden, violent wash of crimson light. The ambient lighting in the room didn't change, but the massive LED wall behind him had turned the color of fresh blood. A shocked silence fell over the room. Investors leaned forward. My parents stood. And Trevor froze. His bright EcoCity vanished from the screen. In its place, a flashing red wireframe shouted, "Stolen property." Author, Sasha. Signature, forged. Project, terminated. Trevor hammered the clicker, begging the tech to fix it. It's a hack," he stuttered. "It's not," I said, stepping forward. "It's a copyright claim." The room erupted. Investors started shouting. My mother frantically tried to explain. My father's face went purple. Trevor stood frozen on stage, the red warning still flashing behind him like a scarlet letter. Garrett's legal team was already moving, phones out, recording everything. I didn't wait for the fallout. I turned and walked toward the elevator. "Sasha!" My father's voice cut through the chaos. "Sasha, wait!" I kept walking. The elevator doors opened. I stepped inside. But before they closed, I heard my mother's voice, shrill and desperate. "You think you've won? You think you can just destroy this family?" I turned, looked her straight in the eye. "I didn't destroy this family," I said. "You did. 27 years ago, when you decided one child was worth more than the other." The doors closed. I made it to the parking garage before my father caught up. His fist slammed onto my car hood, blocking my escape. He was wild-eyed, purple with rage. "You think you won?" he yelled. "I just took out a $50,000 loan against your condo using your power of attorney. The money's gone. You're broke, homeless." For a moment, my heart stopped. Then I remembered. The account he'd wired the funds through was a joint account. One we'd set up years ago for family emergencies. And I'd moved the money last night. "You didn't save Trevor," I told him calmly. "You paid me." He stared, stunned, as I got in my car. "By the way," I added through the window, "that power of attorney expired 2 years ago. You just committed fraud." I drove away. Left him standing there in the parking garage, rage turning to panic as he realized what he'd done. Outside, sunlight hit the windshield. Warm. Real. I had $50,000. Garrett had already texted me a job offer. And for the first time in 32 years, I had a life no one else controlled. My phone buzzed. A message from Noah's school. They were doing a "What Does Your Parent Do" presentation next week. I smiled. For the first time, I'd actually have an answer I was proud of. Not "I help my family." Not "I support my brother's work." Just "I'm an architect. I build cities." 3 months later, I sat in my new office, actually my office, with my name on the door, reviewing the contract Garrett's firm had offered me. Lead architect. Full creative control. My name on every blueprint. The Sky Garden project was dead. Trevor had been forced to return the advance to Pinnacle Real Estate Group. The scandal had tanked my family's firm. Last I heard, they were selling the estate to cover legal fees. My parents hadn't called. Neither had Trevor. But Blake's mother, my sister-in-law, had. She'd left a voicemail, apologizing, saying she didn't know how bad things had gotten, asking if the kids could still see each other. I hadn't called back yet. Maybe I would. Maybe I wouldn't. Some bridges you burn. Some you just stop crossing. What mattered now was what I was building. Not for them. For me. Garrett knocked on my office door. You ready? I looked up. For what? The pitch. New client. Wants a sustainable housing development for low-income families. I told them we had the perfect architect. I grabbed my portfolio. My portfolio. With my name on it. Let's go build something, I said. And for the first time in my life, I meant it. Thanks for listening, and if you liked this story, share it with others, and don't forget to comment and subscribe for more stories about people who stopped accepting crumbs and started claiming their whole damn cake. Sometimes the greatest revenge isn't destruction, it's building a life so good they can't touch it.